He bought the ship to use as a workshop, until he discovered its hidden registry code. Elior Vance wiped the grease from his hands and leaned back, staring at the cramped workshop that had become his life for the last 6 years. It smelled of oil, metal, and old circuits, the constant hum of machinery filling the silence. Most days he fixed small ships, upgrading engines or repairing navigation arrays. But no matter how hard he worked, customers were rare, and credits were even rarer. He sighed and rubbed his eyes. The dream he had when he first opened his workshop, owning his own fleet one day, felt farther away than ever. And yet, Elor had learned something important over the years. Opportunity rarely knocked softly. It knocked loudly, sometimes unexpectedly. That evening, while scanning black market trade logs for cheap scrap, Elor saw it. A derelict ship listed under scrap lot, abandoned, unclaimed, cheap. The image was grainy, showing a massive hull floating silently near a dead mining station. To most people, it would look like a junk heap, a hunk of metal too big to move and too risky to touch. But to Elior, something clicked. He zoomed in on the listing, reading the specifications. The ship was huge, bigger than anything he had ever worked on alone, but the core reactor seemed intact. There were systems he could salvage, maybe even more than salvage. His pulse quickened. Without thinking too much, he made the decision. The credits were tight, but he could scrape together enough to make the purchase. The gamble was massive, but the potential reward was even bigger. This ship, if it wasn't already claimed, could give him parts, energy, and even space to expand his workshop to levels he had only dreamed of. A week later, Elior's small freighter tugged the massive derelict into his workshop bay. The airlocks hissed open, and he stepped inside, his boots echoing in the silent expanse. The ship smelled of metal dust, old fuel, and something else he couldn't identify. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it made him pause. The interior was larger than he expected, even stripped of crews and cargo. Corridors stretched endlessly, twisting like a labyrinth. The walls were lined with panels, some cracked and broken, others still humming with faint energy. For Elior, it was like finding a sleeping giant. He set up his tools and began exploring, making mental notes of what could be salvaged. Old conduits ran along the walls, strange alien alloys glinting under his lights. He tapped a panel and it sparked faintly. A thrill ran through him. The materials alone could finance his workshop for months, but the more he explored, the more he noticed details that didn't make sense. Some panels had inscriptions and shapes that weren't letters or numbers. They curved like they were alive, symbols etched with precision beyond human skill. Other systems seemed to react when he approached, tiny lights flickering in patterns that suggested awareness. Must be old alien tech, he muttered to himself. No human could make this. Days passed. Elior worked tirelessly, extracting parts, testing conduits, and mapping systems. Yet he couldn't shake the feeling that the ship was more than abandoned scrap. One night, while inspecting a sealed compartment near the core, he found something odd. A recessed panel, perfectly flush with the wall, with no markings. Curiosity got the better of him. He pried it open and found a small data crystal, encased in an unknown alloy. It was warm to the touch, and when he inserted it into his portable reader, the screen blinked and loaded a single piece of information, a registry code. The code was long, complex, and unlike anything in human records. He read it twice, then thrice, unable to understand what it meant. It wasn't just a serial number. It was a galactic registry identifier, official and precise, like a ship officially recognized by a governing body. Elior leaned back, heart racing. If the code was valid, this ship was not scrap. It had been cataloged, maybe even wanted. His mind ran through possibilities. Perhaps it was a lost warship, abandoned after some conflict. Or maybe it was a secret transport, hidden until it was safe. Whatever it was, the implications were clear. The galaxy had not forgotten this ship. For the first time, Elior felt the weight of what he had done. He wasn't just a mechanic buying junk. He had stumbled into something much larger. He spent the next hours examining the crystal, running scans and cross-referencing whatever records he could find. Every discovery made the ship more astonishing. Its engines were beyond human design, capable of faster-than-light travel with efficiency humans hadn't achieved yet. The hull was reinforced with alloys that seemed almost impervious, and the control systems, Elior could barely understand them. Some were intuitive, responding to touch and thought in ways he had never seen. Despite the complexity, Eliar felt a surge of excitement. Humans were small players in the galaxy, but that didn't mean they were weak. He had skill, creativity, and determination, and if anyone could figure out this ship, it was him. But curiosity was dangerous. Every sound in the ship suddenly felt amplified. The hum of energy conduits, the creak of bulkheads, the faint whisper of airflow in abandoned corridors. And then he noticed something even stranger, a faint signal pulsing from the ship, subtle but consistent. It was almost like the ship was alive. "Just my imagination," he muttered, though he didn't believe it. Eliar knew he needed to explore the ship more carefully. He spent the next days activating minor systems: lights, gravity stabilization, life support. Slowly the ship seemed to respond. Panels glowed, doors unlocked, and a deep hum reverberated through the hull, as if the ship were waking from a long sleep. That night, Elior slept in one of the crew quarters, staring at the ceiling and imagining possibilities. Could he restore the ship fully? Could he make it his workshop and home while keeping its true potential hidden? He knew the answer would take ingenuity, patience, and perhaps a little luck. Before he could drift to sleep, the ship emitted a soft pulse, a vibration in the air and walls. Elior froze. The crystal's registry code blinked faintly on his reader, almost in rhythm with the pulse. He realized with a shiver that the ship itself might recognize him. Elior sat up, adrenaline rushing. He was not just exploring abandoned tech anymore. He was interacting with something that had history, purpose, and possibly guardians. Whoever had built this ship would never have imagined a human like him stepping aboard years later, tinkering with its systems. His mind raced with possibilities. If he could awaken the ship, understand it, and harness its potential, he could achieve what no human had before. The galaxy might never see humanity the same way again. But for now, he had one task: understand the registry code. Its origin, its purpose, its owners, everything was a mystery. But Elior felt the first spark of a truth that would define his future. Humans could surprise even the galaxy's most advanced minds. And Elior Vance, the mechanic who bought a ship as a scrap lot, was about to prove it. Eliar woke early, his mind already racing with possibilities. The soft hum of the ship still resonated through the hull, almost like it remembered him. He had spent the night thinking about the registry code. Whoever had assigned it clearly considered the ship important. And now, that importance was his to uncover. He moved carefully through the ship's corridors, making mental notes of each system. He had already activated lights, gravity, and life support, but there were still entire sections dormant, systems with purpose he couldn't yet imagine. He approached the main control deck, his boots echoing across the polished floors. Panels lined the walls covered in strange symbols. They shifted slightly as he passed, almost as if reacting to his presence. Elior felt a thrill run down his spine. This was no ordinary ship. Every part of it seemed intelligent, built for a purpose humans could barely comprehend. He sat at the main console and inserted the data crystal. The screen flickered to life, displaying not only the registry code but a set of schematics, maps, and system logs. Elior leaned closer. The ship's design was staggering. Engines far beyond human understanding. Shields that could withstand attacks from warships. Navigation systems capable of predicting wormholes and interstellar hazards before they appeared. "This is incredible," he whispered. Despite the complexity, Elior began experimenting. He traced energy conduits, carefully reconnecting broken circuits and rerouting power to inactive sections. Slowly, he learned the ship's language. Each system had a rhythm, a logic, and a responsiveness that fascinated him. Where humans relied on brute force or trial and error, the ship responded to thoughtful adjustments. Elior spent hours learning the controls. He discovered a small area labeled as a research bay. The compartments inside were still functional, with tools, storage lockers, and even automated repair drones. He activated one and it floated toward him, scanning his tools, then returning to its docking station. The ship was teaching him how to interact with it. But the more Elora explored, the more he realized he was not alone in observing this ship. Small anomalies appeared in the logs, energy pulses and readings that didn't match his actions. At first, he thought it was a glitch. Then he noticed a subtle pattern, a surveillance system, still active, detecting activity outside the ship. He frowned. "Someone is watching this ship," he muttered. Across the galaxy, alien agents were indeed tracking the derelict vessel. A coalition of species, once rivals and now allies, had a network of watchers monitoring lost assets of importance. And this ship, thought abandoned for centuries, had begun sending weak signals as Elior activated systems. The coalition agents were efficient and patient. They could not ignore such a signal. Soon, a small fleet was dispatched to investigate the derelict starship. Their instructions were clear: retrieve, contain, or destroy the asset if necessary. Humans were insignificant in their calculations. They had no idea that a single human mechanic was inside. Back on the ship, Elior continued exploring, unaware of the approaching danger. His curiosity drove him deeper into the ship's inner workings. He discovered the engine core, a marvel of technology. The reactors were compact but immensely powerful, far more efficient than any human reactor. He traced the conduits, noting the flow of energy, and began making small adjustments to stabilize the systems. As he worked, he realized something incredible. The ship's systems were adaptive. When he connected circuits incorrectly, safety protocols activated, preventing damage. When he experimented with energy flow, lights and displays changed to guide him. It was as if the ship was alive, teaching him. Elior spent days in this routine: explore, experiment, learn. Each discovery increased his confidence. He began modifying some systems with parts from his workshop, carefully enhancing functionality. Small human innovations merged with advanced alien technology, creating solutions that neither species had anticipated. One evening, as Elior worked on navigation algorithms, he noticed a strange anomaly in the star charts. A hidden sector of space was mapped within the ship's logs, an area not listed in any known human charts. Curiosity piqued. He ran simulations. The sector contained a massive structure, enormous even by galactic standards, apparently abandoned. He realized the ship had records of long-lost missions, secrets humans had never imagined. "This ship, it's a treasure trove," Elior whispered, awestruck. "And it's all mine to understand." He barely noticed the subtle vibrations growing in the hull, a gentle warning that energy was being tracked from outside. When he finally looked at the external sensors, he froze. A small fleet, sleek and intimidating, appeared on the edge of sensor range. The coalition ships had arrived, scanning for any life signs. Elior's mind raced. He had never faced enemies like this. Humans had survived wars, pirate raids, and rogue traders. But this was different. These aliens were organized, powerful, and prepared to eliminate threats without hesitation. And yet, Elior didn't feel fear. Not entirely. Fear was useful, but determination was stronger. He quickly formulated a plan. The ship had defenses, though long dormant, and its adaptive systems could be used to confuse or evade intruders. He activated security protocols, rerouting power to shields, and activating hidden drones. Doors sealed automatically, and corridors reconfigured to create maze-like patterns. The ship was helping him. Hours passed as Elior prepared. He ran simulations using the ship's internal systems, testing responses to hypothetical attacks. He discovered he could control drones remotely, use energy conduits as traps, and even manipulate the ship's external sensors to mask his presence. Every human skill he had learned over the years became a tool in this new environment. As the alien fleet moved closer, Elior realized something vital. The ship, despite its alien origin, responded best to creative human input. While the coalition relied on technology, algorithms, and predictable tactics, Elior's ingenuity was unpredictable. He could adapt faster than any automated system. He activated a communications relay and sent a simple, disguised signal toward the fleet, an emergency beacon with scrambled data. It was enough to slow their approach while he learned more about the ship's hidden features. Energy pulses flowed through conduits he had never touched before, illuminating hidden compartments and control nodes. Through these nodes, Elior discovered the ship's registry history. It had been a strategic warship designed for intelligence gathering and advanced combat. Centuries ago, it had been lost in a sector of space forgotten by most civilizations. Its disappearance had been noted, but no one had the means or the patience to retrieve it until now. This ship is more than a tool, Elior realized, heart pounding.
It's a statement. Whoever controls it controls knowledge and power humans never thought we could touch. Night fell inside the massive hull.
Elior leaned against the console, exhausted but exhilarated. He had learned more in a week than he ever imagined possible. And now, with alien agents on the way, his true test was about to begin. The galaxy had underestimated humans, and he was about to prove them wrong. He closed his eyes for a moment and thought of his small workshop, of the countless hours he had spent repairing engines, fixing circuits, and dreaming. Everything had led to this moment, a human mechanic standing on a ship thought lost, facing a fleet far beyond human comprehension. And yet, he wasn't afraid. Elior understood something fundamental. Humans were not the strongest, the fastest, or the most advanced, but they were adaptable, clever, and relentless, and that was enough. With renewed determination, he began activating more of the ship's systems, testing each one, learning its responses. The hidden compartments, the energy conduits, the drones, and even the long-dormant navigation arrays all began to respond to him. He felt the ship recognizing him as something more than an intruder, more than a mechanic. It accepted him as a partner, a user, a human capable of unlocking its potential. From the bridge, Elior watched the approaching fleet. They were impressive, disciplined, and dangerous. But he had one advantage they hadn't counted on: human ingenuity fused with alien technology. And for the first time, Elior smiled. The game had begun. The galaxy had no idea that a single human, with nothing but skill, courage, and determination, could turn a lost warship into a force that would challenge centuries of assumptions. And Elior Vance, the mechanic who bought a ship for scrap, was ready to prove it. The first blip appeared on the external sensors before dawn, a small, sleek scout ship from the alien coalition, moving cautiously but deliberately toward the derelict vessel. Elior's heart raced, but he didn't panic. He had spent days preparing, learning the ship's secrets, and now it was time to test everything. He moved to the bridge, his boots echoing in the vast space. The consoles glowed faintly under his hands, responding instantly to his touch. The ship was alive, almost sentient, and it was waiting for him to act. Elior quickly ran a scan of the approaching vessel. It was sleek, heavily armored, and armed with weapons humans had never seen. The alien scouts relied on predictable tactics, algorithms, and firepower, but they had never faced a human who could improvise. He activated the first layer of defenses. Hidden drones silently floated into position, their sensors scanning for hostile signatures. Energy conduits along the walls hummed as he rerouted power to emergency shields. Then he did something unexpected. He triggered the ship's internal corridors to shift subtly. Hallways lengthened, doors sealed, and false corridors created a maze. Any alien boarding attempt would be disoriented, lost in a labyrinth designed by a human mind using alien engineering. The scout ship arrived in orbit. Its sensors swept the derelict vessel, but Elior had anticipated this. He activated the ship's cloaking field, partial enough to blur its outline, and rerouted external energy signatures to fake locations. The scout's sensors flickered in confusion. From the bridge, Elior watched the alien ship struggle to interpret what it saw. He felt a thrill of satisfaction. For the first time, a human had tricked an alien warship, using nothing but wits, engineering skill, and bold improvisation. But the thrill was brief. More ships arrived, 3, then 6, and finally a small task force of 10, all moving with precision, their sensors synchronized, their weapons ready. The coalition was not used to failure, and now a single human had drawn their attention. Elior had to act fast. He tapped into the ship's long-dormant defensive systems. Energy nodes in the hull glowed, releasing pulses that could disrupt sensors, disable engines, and confuse targeting arrays. He targeted the alien fleet with precision. Small drones started forward, releasing blinding light pulses and electromagnetic bursts. The fleet faltered. Their algorithms struggled to adapt to a human's unpredictability. "This is working," Elior muttered, adrenaline pumping. "They didn't expect me." The aliens regrouped, attempting a coordinated attack. Missiles streaked through space toward the derelict ship. Elior anticipated this. He activated the ship's outer defense grid. Energy fields flared, intercepting projectiles and dissipating them into harmless plasma. The hull shuddered but held. Every system he had learned, every detail he had studied was now a weapon, and the ship responded to his commands perfectly. Inside the alien fleet, confusion spread. Their technology, advanced as it was, had no protocol for a single human controlling a long-lost warship. Algorithms failed. Their own drones collided, misfired, and some even retreated under the unpredictable defense patterns. Elliot grinned. Humans were never meant to face overwhelming odds, yet somehow, human creativity turned the impossible into reality. He realized he had more than just defense at his disposal. The ship contained hidden strategic systems, war databases, tactical simulations, and navigation algorithms capable of predicting enemy movements. Elior activated them. Holographic displays projected across the bridge, showing predicted paths of the alien fleet. He adjusted energy flows, drone positions, and shield allocations, using the ship itself as a chessboard. The aliens didn't understand. They fired again, but Elior was always one step ahead, using tactics no AI could anticipate. He directed energy bursts to mislead sensors, creating phantom duplicates of the ship. The fleet wasted precious energy and time targeting images instead of the real vessel. Hours passed like minutes. Elior was exhausted but exhilarated. Every attack the aliens launched was countered. Every tactic they employed was outsmarted. The human mind, unpredictable and bold, had become the most dangerous factor in this encounter. Then came the moment of truth. One of the alien warships, larger and heavily armed, attempted a boarding maneuver, sending automated craft toward the ship's outer hull. Elior activated a hidden trap. Energy conduits along the corridors pulsed in waves, creating temporary force fields. The boarding drones were halted mid-flight, immobilized by a technology they had never seen. Elior realized the potential. This ship, once a relic, could dominate a battle not by sheer power but by ingenuity and adaptation. Humans had never been the strongest species in the galaxy, but they were clever, resourceful, and relentless. That was a combination even the most advanced aliens could not fully anticipate. He made a bold decision. Using the ship's navigation systems, he calculated a precise trajectory through nearby asteroids. The ship could move faster than any alien expected, weaving through dangerous terrain with precision. He engaged engines, feeling the raw power of the reactors surge beneath him. The derelict ship, long abandoned, now moved like a predator awakened. The alien fleet tried to follow, but they were slow, their movements predictable. Elior used the asteroid field to his advantage, drawing ships into collisions and forcing them to scatter. Drones he had modified and reprogrammed released bursts of energy, disorienting sensors further. The human mechanic had turned a lost warship into a weapon of improvisation, bending alien expectations with every move.
Hours later, the fleet was in disarray.
Several ships had retreated, damaged or confused. Elior hovered in the void, breathing heavily, his hands on the controls, a mixture of awe and triumph washing over him. He had not destroyed the fleet, he didn't need to, but he had proven that humans were unpredictable and dangerous. From the ship's internal sensors, he accessed the registry code again. It pulsed softly, almost approvingly. The vessel itself seemed to acknowledge his skill, his courage. his determination. Together, human and ship had turned the tide of an impossible confrontation. Eliar leaned back, a rare smile spreading across his face. For centuries, humans had been underestimated. Traders, scavengers, explorers, they were always considered secondary, incapable of truly shaping galactic events. But now, a single human had done what many entire fleets could not: survive, adapt, and assert control over advanced alien technology. This is just the beginning," he whispered. "The galaxy has no idea what we're capable of." He began reviewing the ship's remaining hidden systems. There were compartments still sealed, engines not fully tested, and data he had yet to decrypt. The registry code hinted at missions lost to time, secrets that could give humanity knowledge far beyond their current reach. Elior realized the potential. He could use the ship not just as a workshop or a tool for survival, but as a statement of human ingenuity and power. One day, the galaxy would have to recognize that humans were not simply survivors. They were innovators, capable of mastering even the most advanced technology. As he activated more of the ship's systems, lights flaring to life and machinery humming with renewed energy, Elor felt a deep sense of connection. The ship, long lost, had chosen him. Not because he was the strongest, but because he had the mind and heart to awaken it fully. From the observation deck he watched distant stars, thinking of the humans scattered across countless systems, each struggling to survive in a galaxy that doubted them. And yet here he was, a single mechanic, turning a forgotten warship into proof that humans could rise to any challenge, surpass expectations, and change the course of events through skill, courage, and imagination. The alien fleet would remember this encounter. They would tell stories of a human mechanic, working with a lost warship, outsmarting advanced fleets, and surviving where logic said he should fail. The derelict ship drifted silently among the stars, its massive hull gleaming faintly under distant suns. Inside, Elior Vance stood on the bridge, exhausted but alive, his eyes fixed on the starfield outside. The alien fleet had retreated, disoriented and battered, leaving him alone with the ship and its secrets. For the first time, he allowed himself to feel the weight of what he had accomplished. He had not just survived. He had proved humanity could adapt, innovate, and dominate through intelligence and courage. The ship, once lost and forgotten, had been awakened by his hands. Its systems responded to him as though it had been waiting for someone who could understand it. A human, of all things. Elior sat at the main console, running diagnostics on every system. Engines hummed smoothly, shields glowed with renewed strength, and navigation arrays came alive with star charts of unexplored regions. The ship was no longer a relic. It was a fully functional vessel, capable of feats the galaxy had not seen in centuries. He began to explore hidden compartments he had not accessed before. One contained a library of data, maps of distant systems, intelligence reports on civilizations long forgotten, and records of strategic missions undertaken by the ship's original crew. Another compartment held advanced tools and repair drones, designed for efficiency far beyond human standards. Elior smiled as he realized the potential. With this ship, humanity could learn and grow at a pace unmatched by any other species. Yet he knew that the galaxy might not understand this potential immediately. The alien coalition that had tracked the ship would not forget. They might return with greater force, assuming a human could never control such a warship. But Elior was ready. The ship was no longer just a tool. It was a partner, responding to his commands with precision and adaptability. Together, they could meet any challenge. Days turned into weeks as Elior worked tirelessly. He repaired, upgraded, and tested the ship's systems, merging human ingenuity with alien technology. He modified the control interfaces to suit his style, creating shortcuts and innovations that even the ship seemed to recognize. The vessels that had once been lost to history now moved and reacted with a fluidity born of combined intelligence, human and machine. During this time, Elior also tested the ship's interstellar capabilities. Using advanced navigation protocols, he plotted a course through previously uncharted systems. The ship responded instantly, calculating safe passages, predicting hazards, and adjusting its trajectory to avoid dangers humans could not yet perceive. He realized that the ship could serve as a bridge between human technology and alien engineering, a tool that could accelerate humanity's reach across the stars. Word began to spread, slowly at first. Traders and explorers noticed the signals, the faint disturbances in local star lanes, and the reports of a massive advanced vessel moving with precision through previously dangerous sectors. Whispers of a human-controlled warship reached the ears of the alien coalition, and curiosity replaced hostility. They had assumed humans were weak, incapable of truly mastering lost technology. Eliar had proven them wrong. Then came the first visitors, cautious and curious rather than hostile. Small alien vessels approached, scanning the ship from a distance. Eliar opened communications carefully, using protocols he had pieced together from the ship's data. When the first transmission reached him, he realized something incredible. Aliens were willing to negotiate. They wanted to understand how a single human had awakened such a ship. Eliar smiled. He had expected confrontation, but diplomacy was just another form of challenge, and humans excelled at adapting. He invited the alien representatives aboard, guiding them through the ship's systems, showing how he had repaired and activated its hidden features. He explained the Registry code, the ship's history, and the potential it held for exploration and cooperation. The aliens were stunned. The ship, they admitted, was a marvel, its power and intelligence unmatched in centuries. And yet, a human had not only restored it but used it to outsmart their entire fleet. Murmurs spread among their ranks. Humans, it seemed, were not the fragile species they had assumed. They were clever, creative, and resourceful, traits that even the most advanced species could not ignore. Elior realized that this was more than a victory. It was a message. Humans could rise above expectations, mastering technology and strategy in ways the galaxy had never anticipated. He had not used the ship to destroy. He had used it to survive, to adapt, and to prove that intelligence and courage were just as powerful as raw firepower. In the following weeks, Elior continued to demonstrate the ship's capabilities. He mapped dangerous sectors, cleared asteroid fields, and recovered lost data from ancient systems. Every mission, every calculated maneuver was a statement of human skill and audacity. Aliens began to recognize the value of working with humans rather than underestimating them. Reports circulated across star systems. A human had turned a forgotten warship into a symbol of innovation and determination. Elior also began to train others, sharing knowledge cautiously with trusted human crews. He created teams to study alien technology, adapt it for human use, and explore uncharted systems. The derelict ship, once a personal project, had become a school, a workshop, and a beacon for humanity's potential. Yet, for all the recognition and attention, Elior never lost sight of why he had started this journey. He had bought a ship to use as a workshop to survive and build a better life. But in doing so, he had touched the larger story of humanity. Its ingenuity, resilience, and capacity to rise above limitations. From the bridge, he gazed at the stars, imagining human settlements across distant planets, each connected through exploration and discovery. He thought of his small workshop, now a memory, and smiled. Everything had begun there, with one human skill, curiosity, and determination. The alien coalition returned one final time, not with weapons, but with acknowledgement. They offered alliances, shared knowledge, and even access to resources. Elior accepted cautiously, understanding the delicate balance between cooperation and independence. Humans were no longer weak. They were a force to be reckoned with. In a quiet moment, Elior walked through the ship's corridors, touching panels and conduits that had once been lifeless. Now, they pulsed with energy and purpose, guided by his hands and mind. The ship seemed to respond, as if grateful for the care and ingenuity that had revived it. It had waited centuries for someone who could unlock its potential, and it had found that person in a human. Elior paused at the observation deck, looking out at a distant nebula. Stars shimmered, vast and endless. He realized that the galaxy was no longer a place of limits for humans. With creativity, courage, and determination. They could shape events, master technology, and leave a mark that others could not ignore. A message arrived from the coalition. Your people have been underestimated. We acknowledge your skill, ingenuity, and courage. Humans will now be considered equals in our records. Elier smiled, feeling the weight of history settle on his shoulders. A mechanic from a small workshop, once considered insignificant, had changed the perception of his entire species. He returned to the bridge, placing a hand on the console. "This is just the beginning," he said quietly. "Humans can do more. We will show them all." The derelict ship, once abandoned and forgotten, now carried humanity's future. Its engines hummed, shields glowed, and corridors pulsed with energy. Together, human and machine were unstoppable, not because of raw power, but because of intelligence, adaptability, and courage. Elier looked out at the galaxy, knowing that wherever humans went next, they would leave a mark. One mechanic, one awakened ship, one bold mind had begun a ripple that would spread across the stars. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. Humans were unpredictable, resourceful, and capable of greatness beyond imagination.